Hey everyone, welcome back. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend celebrating that. I just got back from having dinner with the wife and the kids. We had a great time. It was a great weekend. Hopefully you guys did too. Bitcoin, for the most part, well, it did pretty good over the weekend. It didn't do too bad. Not much stories as far as news going from the miners, so we're just going to take a look at how the miners have performed over last week against Bitcoin, and then we'll look at some time frames on Bitcoin and miners to see how the stock performance has changed over several years, I guess you could say. All right, and then we'll get into Q&A. It should be pretty easy, short. We'll get through it all, but we got to go through this as well. Not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research. Full disclosure below that. Hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. And let's take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin here right now. Bitcoin did get to, well, a recent high, I guess you could say. It got $105,059. It kind of fell after that. So that does look like we have a little bit of resistance there around 105,000, I would say. I mean, we came there close on, well, what was it? We came close on Saturday, Sunday, and then obviously we got here again today on the new day, which is Monday. But we also have battled with it here in the past as well, at least a couple times. You can see that right there. So that does kind of play into it where it is a little bit of resistance right now. If we can break above that, well, I think we're going to be breaking the 109,000, the previous high here in short time. On the daily, the RSI is kind of still high right now, above 70. May need to see that come down, but it can come down with the price of Bitcoin still going up here. We've seen that before as well. We saw it actually back here. If you look at it over here, we can see the RSI. Let me see if I can, I can't really zoom in on it. Let me see, can I make this auto? There we go. Okay, so you can see where the RSI here, where this was back in November, was pretty high. It got up to a high of approximately, I can't even zoom out that far. It was 84. And at the price at that point was around 88,000, right? And then we continued to actually go up higher while the RSI actually went down and kind of sideways more or less. We can still see that happening here. And the good sign that I'm seeing here, at least on the weekly and the monthly, RSI is way down from where it was back here. So that's good. That leaves us more room to run up going forward. So like I said, we're probably going to be to 109,000 here in the coming days, if not weeks. We'll get past that, go even higher. And then even on the monthly chart, we can see that the RSI came down here quite a bit, leaving us with plenty of room to run up here even more. You can see how high the RSI got on the prior cycle, where we got to 69,000, right? We got to 92. We still have a ways to go before we get that high. So could we get to 180,000, 200,000? It does look feasible right now, right? But we'll have to keep an eye on it, see how things go. But it's going to take us at least another, I would say 6 months at the latest, at the least, to get up to those ranges, 150,000, 180,000, something like that, maybe even beyond that. But we're definitely on our way there. So that's looking good. Let's take a look at here what's going on with the network hash rate really quick as well. We haven't done this in a couple of days as well. Let's see where that is. On the 7-day, did we get a new high here on the 7-day? We got to 926 exahash, 575. The prior one was 924. Yeah, so we reached a new high, at least on the 7-day average. Do we get a new high on the single-day average? And we got close to it, I think. 1,036 was the one, 1,038. So we came close to it, but the average on the 7-day is definitely improving, going up higher. And the 30-day average, really quick, if we look at that as well, that's starting to increase as well a little bit here. We're back up to 873 exahash on that one. So hash rate is still continuing to increase. Bitcoin price is starting to increase. Miners are starting to increase as well. Miners actually had a pretty good week last week, considering. We'll take a look at that here shortly. But here's the ETF inflows for Bitcoin. We had a nice continuation of buying in from BlackRock. I mean, BlackRock just continues to buy. I don't know what's going on with some of the other ones like Fidelity, Bitwise, and ARK even. Are they selling out of that one, going into BlackRock or something? Because, I mean, if you look at BlackRock, BlackRock has been positive inflows pretty much the whole time. When others are selling, BlackRock is still actually buying quite a bit more than they are. So that's kind of interesting to take a look at that. But BlackRock continues on that. We've had obviously a couple, 3 days here at least, of positive total inflows, whereas before we've had some negatives here, at least one or so, 1, 2 in the last, I would say 2 weeks or so. So that's actually pretty good looking there. And then Bitcoin here right now on the quarter 2 is up nicely, 26%. That's about the average over the lifespan of Bitcoin here. You can see the average is 26% gains, and that's kind of where we are right now. And we're only we're 11 days into it right now. We still have plenty days to go in May here. And for May, we're up 10.48%, getting close to where we were for April, being up 14%. May actually might be a really good month for us. So that's going to bode well for us. And it looks like my family just got back from a walk. So sorry if you hear all the running upstairs going on. My kids messing with the dog again. Let's see, what else do we have here? That covers that. Let's take a look at the miners here. Let's look at the weekly first, and we'll get into some of the historical data on the miners as well against Bitcoin here. But over the last 52 weeks, we're looking at how far the miners have come along with Bitcoin and strategy and how far away they are from their 52-week lows. We can see that strategy is outperforming everything right now. It's up 306%. Core is up 169 along with BitDeer. So those two are outperforming Bitcoin in the last 52 weeks, whereas some of the other ones are underperforming. So Bitcoin's up 109%, Hut 8 is only up 81%, Marathon up 60, Bitfarms up 60, Cypher up 60, IREN up 51%, Hive up 46%, Cleanspark up 42%, and Riot up only 37%. Since then, you can see Bitcoin's only 5.6% away from its 52-week high, which is 109,000. And the other miners are ways off. Strategy is the closest next, being only 23% away from its 52-week high, which was, I believe, like $500 some odd dollars, 530 I think was the top around there, roughly. And then everybody else is quite a ways away from that 60%. They've definitely gotten beaten down here in the last 4 months, I would say, and then they're starting to kind of catch up a little bit here recently here. So that's on the 52-week time frame. If we look at the 1 week, 4 weeks, and 8 weeks, and 12 weeks, well, things look a little bit different here now. BitDeer had a great week. It was up 29% last week. The reason for that is there was news that came out from their operations update on Friday, or at least they had a really good day on Thursday, actually. They were up like 20-some-odd%. It was 30%, I think it was. But that was mainly because they are pausing their growth in Bitcoin mining at one of their Ohio sites and maybe other sites as well, that they have just a lot of interest from potential customers there for HPC AI. So I think that's kind of what pumped the stock here last week. But they've done a great job here, obviously, for that. Marathon was up nicely, also 9% on the week. IREN 8%, Core up 7%, and then Bitcoin was up 6%. So Bitfarms at least performed the same as Bitcoin did. Strategy was actually lower at 5%. Cleanspark was up only 4%. Hive was up 3%. Riot up 1%. Hut 8 up 1%. And Cypher, for some reason, was actually down 6% on the day, or on the week, sorry. When we look at the 4 weeks, things look a little bit different there. BitDeer up 85%, doing a really, really good job here since it bottomed out here. It also got beaten down. I think one of the stocks that got beaten down the most since like the beginning of the year. So it's kind of catching a little bit of a relief rally here right now, it looks like. And then we got, see, Core was up 41%, so that has obviously outperformed Bitcoin here, with Bitcoin being up 22%. So Core is up 2x on Bitcoin. And then we had, well, Strategy was up 31%, Riot was up 31%, so those have outperformed along with Bitfarms, 29%. I mean, pretty much everybody else, all the miners have outperformed here, at least slightly, or at least keeping up with Bitcoin here. Bitcoin's, up 22%, but these guys are up 24, 26, 23, 24, 26, so they're at least along with Bitcoin here, while some are actually outperforming it a little bit on the 4 weeks. If we look at the 8 weeks here, Bitcoin's up 23%. We only have a couple miners that have outperformed. Strategy being one of the biggest ones here, 37%, along with BitDeer being up 41%. And then we got Cleanspark up 24%, and Marathon up 27% in the last 8 weeks. And then everybody else has underperformed, where they're kind of like a single digits. And actually, IREN's actually down 2%, surprisingly. And then on 12 weeks chart, we can see that Bitcoin's up 7%. We got Marathon and BitDeer slightly outperforming Bitcoin, and then Strategy way outperforming, 39% up. And then we got quite a few miners that have done pretty badly. IREN down 35%, Cypher down 46% from 12 weeks ago, Hive down 26%, and then we got Hut 8 down 23%, Riot down 19%, Bitfarms down 18%, Core down 14%, and Cleanspark's only down 1%. So that one has been maybe beaten down, or at least holding its own quite well here in those time frames. But when we look at the table here, we're starting to see a lot more green here in the weeks, which is nice to see compared to what we saw here, right? Basically, I would say the start of, this would probably be middle of the year, or middle of January, I think, is where things kind of started to take shape. Even towards the end of the year, we saw the last 3 weeks of December being in red. We had one green week in the first week of January, then a red, a green, and then we started getting a heck of a lot more red here on these guys, and they have been definitely decimated to a certain point. Bitcoin being down only 30% from its low or to its low, while the miners were 60, 70, 75, even somewhere 80% down. So they definitely did a 2x on top of Bitcoin, that's for sure, on the downside. Now we just need to see that happening on the upside as well. All right, so there's that. And then if we look at the stock performance of the miners as well over different period time frames, if we go all the way back, we'll go in kind of chronological order, going all the way back to the bottom, which happened in December of 2022. And I have this from January of 3rd of 2023. So just right in that time frame, the miners might have been up a couple percentage points, but we're pretty close to that. Bitcoin actually is right now outperforming all of them from that time frame. And why is that? Well, the miners have been being down tremendously. Like I said, Bitcoin being down only 3%. Here recently, the miners being down 60, 70%. That has definitely played into it here. All right, so you can see IREN only being up 491%, Cypher 365, Marathon 363, Cleanspark 357, and then we got Hot being up 239, Core up 170, Bitfarms up 152, Riot 151, Hive only 20%. Bitdeer wasn't actually a public miner at that point. So yeah, based on the pullback that we've seen on miners, they've definitely been underperforming here Bitcoin since then, but there were times where the miners have outperformed depending on when you look at it. So if we looked at it back to like last April of last year, from the bottom of December and January of 2023, we would see a much different story here. But over the longer time frame, Bitcoin has pulled up a little bit ahead. I'm thinking that we will still see the miners outgrow Bitcoin here in the next 6 to 9 months, I would think. But we definitely need Bitcoin to go up higher, and we need miners to catch a break as well, I think, on that one. Now, if we look at the price difference from the beginning of last year, of 1/2/2024, we can see that CORZ Scientific has outperformed here, 170% to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's up 132%. Then we got everybody else, Bitdeer only being up 59%, Hot 8 being up 10, IREN being up 3%, Cleanspark being down 15, Cypher down 27, Marathon down 31, Riot 44, and so on, so on. You can see that happening there. Price difference from the beginning of the second half of 2024, we got Bitcoin being up 66%, and everybody else from that point on has underperformed. And we have actually seen that happening where the miners were not doing that great in that time frame, which was kind of expected. We had the halving event, obviously, in, when was it, in May, I think it was? I can't remember if it was May or April now of last year. We had the halving event then that basically cut the revenue of the miners in half overnight. We knew this was going to be a challenging time for them, so this was kind of expected here. Nonetheless, Bitfarms being down the most, 59%, along with Cleanspark down 48%, and IREN 44, Hive 42%, Cypher down 36, Marathon down 30, and so on there. When we look at from the beginning of the fourth quarter, so 10/1/2024 of last year, we can see that Bitdeer is actually outperforming here, 103%. Bitcoin's only up 72%, I guess you could say. And everybody has underperformed here, with Bitfarms being the biggest loser here, being down 45%. Hive down 37, Core down 20, Cypher being down 16, almost 17%, IREN almost 9%, Marathon just up a little bit here, up 4.5%, Cleanspark almost 7%, Riot up almost 20% there, Hot 20%, and Bitcoin obviously being up almost 72%. Now when we look at it from the beginning of this year, things look again differently, right? Bitcoin's up 8% from the beginning of this year. And like I said, a lot of these miners have been beaten down 60, 70, 80%, and you can see that here, with the only exception being Cleanspark only now being down 2.65%, along with Marathon, and then even Riot being down almost 19%. But everybody else is like 32 still, 38, 40% still, beaten down from where they were just the beginning of this year. So this year was not great for them. We had the tariffs, everything else that came into play. Gosh, we had the DeepSeek FUD happening as well, right? With the demand on HPCI being being less than, or being reported less than what people were saying. That had a huge impact, especially on the miners that were in HPCI as well. And that's the result that we're seeing here over the last, I would say, 4 or 5 months or so. The miners are starting to catch back up a little bit here, bouncing from the bottoms here that we saw here just recently, about 2 weeks ago, I would say. And they're actually doing not too bad, all things considered. And then if we look at the price difference from the Trump tariffs, so those were announced on 4/2, right? Remember that, Liberation Day. Didn't feel like we got liberated, but that's what they're calling it. But Bitdeer is up almost 49% here. Marathon up almost 27% along with Bitcoin. So those guys, Marathon is at least performing as well as Bitcoin here is. Bitfarms up 25%, and then Cleanspark's up 14%, Hive up 14% as well, Cypher up 12%. Core up 10, Riot up only 5%, IREN up 4%, and HUT only up 3% here. So BitDeer is definitely doing the best job here in the last, I would say, probably a couple of weeks. I would say the last 4 to 8 weeks or so, it has been doing really, really well here. Marathon as well. Marathon has cut a nice little bounce here as well. It's kind of following Bitcoin at least for the most part. And Bitfarms too. Bitfarms was down all the way down to like 60 some odd cents at one point, I think, before it started coming back up here. So it bottomed out quite heavily, and it's having a nice bounce here as well. But we need the other miners to perform as well, or at least get back onto parity with Bitcoin at least. Bitcoin being up 26%. Some of these guys are only half of where that Bitcoin is right now, and price appreciation. So we definitely need to see that kind of bounce happening there going forward. Will it happen? I do believe it will happen, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. I still think that the miners are a proxy on Bitcoin. Yes, they're heavily shorted to a certain extent, especially like Mara, Cleanspark, and others in there as well, heavily shorted on that. And I think as long as Bitcoin continues to rally here going forward, and we start getting new all-time highs, I would think that smarter heads would prevail, and you would start seeing some of the short interests get taken off as things start to go north. But, you know, who knows? We'll see what that is going to be like in the next 3 months, I guess you could say. All right, that's it. That's all I got for you guys here. The spreadsheets are going to be available to Patreon members as always. Link for that is down in the description. Let's get into Q&A here. Call it a day. And go celebrate some more Mother's Day a little bit before the night is over with. All right, so let's see. Where do I want to go? I want to go to Q&A. That's where I want to go. Okay, so let's see where Bitcoin is at right now, along with all the miners are not trading it here right now. And we got plenty of stuff to cover later on this week. Before I forget, we do have some miners reporting here. We got Bitfarms reporting on May 14th, along with IREN, and then we got BitDeer reporting on the 15th. And I think that might be all of the miners. I think Hive is still left to report. And then who else? I think that's it. I think there's only like 4 miners left that have to report. And then we're still waiting on actually, not Hive. We're waiting on CORZ to report their monthly production update. And there's another one as well on top of it. Who is that? I think it's HUT 8. I believe it's HUT 8 as well. Those are the only 2 left. Okay, go back here. Let's go back there. Q&A, as always, question marks before the questions or Q will help me out. And then let me scroll up a little bit, and I'm going to work my way down here a little bit. All right. Let's see. God's Will has a question here. Hi, Seb. Thanks for all you do for us. You're very welcome as always. Thank you. I appreciate that. Can you please run a quick check on PI/USD on TradingView and tell a brother where it's heading? PI? I don't even know what PI is. We got time. Let's take a look at it, see what we got going on here. Let me pull this up really quick here. And where do I want to go? I want to go here. Let's see, PI. Okay, there's quite a few of them. There's Pigeon, there's Precision Instruments. I'm not sure which ones you're looking for here. There's quite a few. Let me know which one you're looking at, because here, let me show you this. If I search for PI, I can see a bunch of them here. Personal income, is that the one you're looking at? Which one are you actually looking for? Okay, let me know. And we'll take a look at it, if anything. Go back to Q&A. Okay, so that says, Sebastian and I held 5,300 shares of Cleanspark, but sold all on the last trading day. Should I buy back Cleanspark or go for Riot, IREN, which are trading lower? So you sold them on Friday then? Hopefully you were in the green at least. I'm hoping that you were in the green. But, okay, so here's the deal with Riot and IREN. IREN is getting to like 52 exahash. They've pretty much paused, for at least the time being, they've paused their Bitcoin expansion. Riot, same thing. Riot's only getting to, what, 40 some exahash, I think it is, based on their current numbers. Where are they at now? Or is it 36 exahash? I can't remember. It's like 36, 38 exahash or something like that they're pausing at. And they're concentrating on getting a HPCI deal there as well. Could they possibly get a deal? Possibly. We haven't seen too many deals happen here in the last year. We've seen Core get CoreWeave. We've seen Galaxy get also CoreWeave. We've seen TeraWulf get Core 42. And that's about it, at least for right now. We've heard rumors, rumblings from IREN that they're working, or that had interest from a hyperscaler. Not much has materialized from that right now. We've also, heard here from BitDeer last week that they are in talks with some customer. We don't know what kind of customer they're in talks to possibly have some data centers in Ohio maybe, but that's about it. Other talks that we've seen in the background are just talks right now. We don't have anything concrete from them, and I think the miners would be happy to report that they have, at least inked a temporary, or what do they call those, letter of intent or letter of interest, something like that. But we haven't seen anything like that. So can those two guys get anything for the deals here? Possibly, right? But we haven't seen that. So I'm still a little hesitant. I'm still a little on the fence on the whole HPCI deals with the miners here going forward. But we'll see. I could be proven wrong on that, and I'd be happily proven wrong if that's the case, right? Because that's going to bode well for those guys. But as far as Riot and IREN, that's kind of where I see them. IREN I kind of like more than Riot. They have better operations, lower cost to mine Bitcoin. So I would say those guys are a better play here. And, I mean, they both are trying to get HPCI, so it's just a matter of who gets one first, right? If IREN gets it, they're definitely going to benefit from it. But if Riot gets one, they're going to benefit from that as well. So that could pump the stock there. And then Cleanspark is just a pure play Bitcoin miner with a nice hodl position, which Riot also has a nice hodl position there. IREN does not. But I still like Cleanspark. Cleanspark's like the second lowest cost to mine right now after IREN. And they're still going to be growing past the 56. They're looking to get to maybe like 65. I'm guessing maybe like 70 exahash by the end of the year. So that's still going to be really good growth for them here, especially if Bitcoin continues to go up in value. We do know that they're looking for a site, or at least we're planning on getting a site in Tennessee, close to, I think it's North Carolina there, or close to the border there with North Carolina. That there, I know there's some backlash from the citizens there, maybe potentially, but I think those are unfounded claims. But we'll see. So as far as Riot and IREN, I would go with IREN, based on just their operations are much better. Their overhead is much better also. That's kind of the way I would go if you're going to do that. If you're not getting the Cleanspark, I would go with IREN, and to be honest with you. Not financial advice as always. Oh, Matt's here. Hey, Matt, thank you so much for coming in. He said, with public markets tightening and equity dilution concerns rising, how many miners raise funds? Will we see more debt financing, mining-backed bonds, or tokenizing mining credits? I don't think we're going to see tokenized mining credits. I think we're going to see, obviously, them pull on the ATMs. We saw, who was it? BitDeer? No, BitDeer. What did BitDeer? Somebody came out with another $200 million in ATM. I can't remember who that was. I got too many numbers in my head right now. But yeah, we're probably going to see that, a continuation of that. I don't know how much more appetite there is for convertible bonds in this place. We've seen a lot happen basically at the end of last year, where we saw Cleanspark, Mara, Riot, gosh, IREN even. There's a bunch of them that got it at that point. Maybe if Bitcoin goes up, maybe there's going to be some appetite for that as well going forward. So I could see that. And we know, the only one that we know right now that's not looking to dilute is at least Cleanspark. So that might be a good one there as well, at least for the end of this year. We don't know what's going to happen later on this next year, but if Bitcoin continues to go up, they might be able to fund operations and growth through their operations as they get basically to scale. I think they're close to being at scale right now as it is. Maybe that's going to be 50 exahash, 60 exahash, whatever that might be, where they can then fund operations growth and still pay everything else that they got to pay for. But that's kind of the way I would see things. I don't know about tokenized mining. I'm not sure, or credits. I don't think, I could be wrong on that, but I don't think so. Okay. Godswill has a question. By market cap, it's currently number 16 on the coin market cap. Its current price is $1.26. Thank you. Okay, so it's PI is a coin basically on that one. I don't know. I don't track the altcoins at all, so I wouldn't. The only altcoins that I track are the ones that I have, which are like Doge, Ethereum. What's the other ones that I have? HBAR, I think, that I still have left in there. Gosh, what else do I have? I think that, well, you see in the, like the first couple minutes, first couple seconds of the video always is what I put out there. That's what I have. And that includes, let me see here. What else do I have there? See, BTC, Ethereum, ADA, which is HBAR, or Cardano, and then HBAR, LTC, and Doge. LTC, I think I only have like a couple bucks left on that one, I think. So that's all I track. I don't track anything else. Okay. Neville says, I've been stacking Cleansparks in the 7 and 8s range. That rip on Friday off of bad news had me confused, but it looks like I missed out to add more at market open that day. Yeah, I mean, Thursday I think is when they did reported their quarterly results. I think it was the algo selling, right? They missed on two things, on the EPS and on the revenue, I believe it was. Algos just took over on that and they sold it, but then people realized that they're actually doing pretty good here and they started buying it up. So that's kind of what happened there. And good for you if you're able to get it at those ranges. I think those are great prices. Anything below that was great also. So congrats there. Neville says we'll wait on Monday, as those days tend to not be good, but who knows? Yeah, keep an eye on things. Let's see. Justin says, love the miners, have done so well in them. Awesome. That's great. Yeah, depending when you get into these things, right? If you got into them at the higher prices when they were at $24, $30 for some of these guys, and yeah, that was probably not a great time to get into them. You want to get into them on these dips. Neville says the miners will outperform BTC because BTC will eventually make it possible through its appreciation. Okay, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. And then Neville's got a question here. Do you see Bitfarms landing an HPCI deal this year? I think they'll have to do so to avoid Riot making a second run in 2026. Either they get in there this year or Q1 of 2026. That's going to be tough, right? They don't have any... They don't have any background in HPCI. They hired on some people that have experience with HPCI, which is good. That was a good move. But other than that, they don't have any experience in it. So they need to prove themselves, I think. And I think they're going to be doing like a pilot program or something like that. They do have funding from, I can't remember who it's from now, but it's total $300 million. They got the first $50 million of that just to kind of start things out. But that funding there, I think, from the person or from the company that's funding them, that company entity has probably good contacts that could possibly push customers towards them. And if they can build out the data centers at the two in Pennsylvania there that they have for that are the coal refuse plants, if they can build those out without having to put in the backup generators, that's going to be a huge cost savings for them. They can pass it on to the customers there as well, as long as they get the PMJ Connect approved for the amount of watts they're going to need there. So they have a lot to do there, I believe. It's just going to be a matter of time, and can they do that relatively quickly? I don't know how quick that process is going to work for getting approval for the grid there to connect and all that stuff. That's going to take a while there on that one. Okay. Sarmelin says, only buy IREN, Mara, or Cleanspark. The rest are junk. I wouldn't say the rest are junk. I think the rest need to continue to grow to get to scale. And I mean, there's so many different, there's these little idiocracies with each one of these guys. You have to look into everything in them. Heinze says, Riot. I mean, Riot has gotten better over time with their operations. It's just now they've paused growth in Bitcoin mining and are concentrating on HPCI. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. If they can get an HPCI deal, maybe that's going to be a good thing. If they don't get one and they pause for a year, that might not be a good thing then. Saramount says, you're a good man, Seb. Just ignore the hate. Just keep doing what you're doing. Thanks for all the hard work and effort. I appreciate that, yeah. Hate's going to come regardless. I don't get too much hate. So even if I do get hate, I understand it, right? People maybe got in at different times, at maybe higher levels on these things. Things haven't turned out the way I thought they were going to turn out, right? These are just my thoughts, my ramblings, basically. You guys are here to listen to my ramblings of what I think is going on. Have I been wrong in the past? Yeah, I mean, last year definitely didn't work out like I thought I was going to do, especially with Bitcoin going up to 100,000. So I am more than open to criticism, right? Nobody's right 100%, but at least I'm out here trying to be honest with you guys and at least give you my thoughts on where I see things going on. Could they be wrong? Absolutely. All right, Gary's here. All three of the big HODL miners doubled their operations losses in Q1 versus Q4. It seems with high energy costs, they can never get profitable. Do you think this will change in Q2? Well, in Q2, they're going to be profitable because Bitcoin's going up in value, right? So a lot of these guys that have huge HODL positions, the FSB is going to help them out. But we should also see some of these guys, like I think IREN's going to be profitable nonetheless. Cleanspark should be profitable as they increase more hash rate, as long as they don't have too much in depreciation, things like that, right? I know you guys look at that as well. But that should improve. I think a lot of these guys need to get to scale. Some guys, like Mara has, what is it now, 65% of their sites are self-owned. The other 35%, whatever it is, 40%, are still sites that they use hosting, right? So their machines are hosted with somebody else. They pay a little bit of higher price for that, and that's still weighing them down. That's still, basically increasing their cost to mine on average overall. So they need to fix that. They also, a lot of these guys are just, the SG&A is crazy on them. I don't know what we need to do there to light some fires underneath their butts a little bit to cut that down. The stuff is just ridiculous there. No private company would be able to do that for a very long time. You know, you could maybe get away with it for one quarter, but man, you're still going to be in the red. How are you going to dig yourself out of that? The only thing these miners can do is pull on the ATM or get loans or something like that because, well, they're publicly traded, so they have access to all that. But if you didn't have that, you would not be doing this for sure. So they got to cut that stuff out eventually, hopefully sooner than later. Heinze, question from Heinze here. Why do bears believe mining stocks are a bad business model? There's a couple of reasons. Network hash rate continues to increase, right? So that's going to drive your revenues down unless you're actually keeping up with the network hash rate or increasing faster than that is growing. Volatility in Bitcoin. That's another one. Bitcoin is pretty volatile. This cycle is different. I've talked about this already in the past where we've had two corrections here in the last, I would say, year basically. Last year was when we got to 73,000, then we corrected down to 40-some-odd-thousand. That was a 34% correction, I think it was. And that took a couple months, 4 or 5 months, whatever it took for us to correct through that and then finally go back up. We're seeing that again this year, going from 109,000 down to 78,000, whatever it was. So that was like a 32% correction there. Again, took us 3-4 months to get there. So the cycle is completely different this time around, and we have more institutions in play. We have more big money in play than we have in the past, I think. And that's why they're going long on certain things like maybe Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, and then they're hedging their bets on the miners, right? Especially when things go down here. So them shorting the miners here in the last 4 months has probably worked out pretty well for them because the miners are down 40, 60, 70%, if not a little bit more. So that's kind of why we're seeing that. And then the other thing is the capital expense to build out, buy more miners, and then you have to repeat that process, historically at least. You've had to repeat that process every 3 years or so, right? So you have to buy newer machines, continue to add more megawatts, get bigger and bigger. But what if we don't have this kind of cycle again where we only have these kind of corrections 30%? We don't go down 80, 90% on the miners and Bitcoin along the way, or Bitcoin going down 70%, whatever it was last cycle, and coming back up. What if we have just a continuation of an uptrend, but with these kind of pauses in price where it goes sideways and down 30% or something like that, and the miners go down, hopefully not all the time going down 60, 70, 80% when Bitcoin goes down 30%, but eventually just kind of mirroring what Bitcoin does in a little bit. Could that be a better thing for them? I think that might be the case, but that we won't know that until we're here next year and we see where Bitcoin's at. Has Bitcoin gone up even further, corrected another 20, 30%, and then continue to go up? So it might see us a change in the way things have worked, at least going forward, than what we've seen in the past. But we'll see. Dylan says, Wolf, you saw their figures from Q1 results. Their cost to mine was over $60,000. A single Bitcoin that is just high. It was the same thing for Q4. I don't know. They're saying it's because of winter storms basically on that, but that was a huge 6 months period where it was basically the same high cost to mine. So I'm not sure what's really going on there. Cyrus says Wolf and Hut had the worst Q1s. I would agree with you there as well, right? Very, very low revenue and very, very high general administrative compensation, all that stuff. Hut only produced $1 million gross profit. That's sad. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Which miners do you still hold, and why you and your ex-community always against Mara? We're not against Mara. I like Mara, right? I like a lot of things that they're doing, but I still hold Mara. I still hold Cleanspark, IREN, and Bitfarms. Those are the ones that I still hold. Mara, I'm against Mara. I wouldn't say I'm against them. I just kind of nag on them for their a little bit higher cost to mine. Their operational uptime has been improving, so I'll give them that. But I'd like to see that more consistent. It's kind of up and down all over the place a little bit. I would also like to see them provide some data when it comes to buying sites and buying these like windmill farms. Also these flare gas sites. What is the cost there? We're not seeing any data provided on the OpEx cost on that. So what is that going to take him? Is it going to take him 3 years to break even on that? Is it going to take him 5 years to break even on that? We don't have a lot of data, so I nag him about that. But operations have been getting a lot better, which I like to see. And then they just need to cut the costs. They're not the only ones also. They need to cut their SG&A costs as much as possible, get those things down so then they can be profitable. But they have a huge HODL position as well. And I own them. I wish them all the best, but I nag on them for those reasons, and I nag on some other miners for other reasons as well. I'll give you guys the good and the bad with the miners, when I see them. So it's just not them. All right. Would you recommend starting to trim Cleanspark from $15 all the way to $25? Depending when you got into it. I mean, if you got into it at $15, like maybe some people have, at least you're breaking even at that point. But I think to 25, yeah. I mean, if you're in profit, there's no shame in taking profits. I would say maybe take out what you put into it. Let the rest run a little bit. Take out part of that as well. Let that rest run a little bit. See where it goes. Do it maybe something like that. All right. Well, Riot 3x of BTC top out at 150,000. Well, for Bitcoin, that's only less than 50% now. Bitcoin is actually down a little bit here right now at 104,000, but that's basically 50% for it. So I would expect them to do at least that, if not at least a 2x, right? So that's kind of, I'm sandbagging that because it could do actually better than that. If it gets the HPC ideal or something like that, then it could actually pump quite nicely here. But even without the HPC ideal, Bitcoin going up, I mean, their cost, I don't know. I would say at least a 2x, I think, would be kind of nice to see there. Let's see. Hi, Seb. Will Hive and Soluna recover? Secondly, can Mara hit 35 again? I think Mara can hit 35. I mean, Mara is right now at what, $14, whatever it is, at current $14, $13, whatever it is. I think you can get there. It's only a 3x for it. Bitcoin goes up to, 200,000, 200 something. I think you can get there, plus maybe more as well. Hive is an interesting one, right? Hive has had also high cost to mine a single Bitcoin. That needs to improve, and I think that will improve for them once they start getting more miners installed and getting closer to 25 exahash. That should help things out there. And the other part of it is they're not really, yes, they're US based for reporting reasons now, but they don't have any operations in the United States for the most part. It's all either in Canada, up in, Greenland, Iceland over there, up in those areas, up Nordic countries, and then they're down South America as well. So I don't know if that's going to be a contributing factor to them being kind of lagging behind the other miners. I don't know. They were a great miner. I mean, they're still a great miner. They're still one of the most operational excellent miners when it comes to operations. It's just they've never really been, at least in the past, they've never been really too ambitious to be like the number one miner or something like that. They've always wanted to stay at like 1% of the network hash rate. And I think that kind of hit them a little bit on that. And then, I mean, they were great with GPU mining for Hive. For Ethereum, they were making a boatload. They were making a heck of a lot more money. I mean, they were more profitable in a lot of these miners here last cycle than they are right now. But things change. Obviously, they had to adapt, and I think they're adapting okay. It's just, can they get the love? That I don't know. That's the hard part there. Well, investors find it in their hearts to buy them up. Not sure. Gary says, question, FSB is already worked into the price via HODL, which is why Mara could soar with huge FSB losses. Need to really focus on operational gains and losses to compare miners accurately. Yeah, I agree with you there. Right, FSB is always going to be a big chunk of their either revenue. Well, it could be revenue as well, but part of their profit margin or for EPS and things like that. But where you got to really compare them is on operations, right? How operationally are they? What does it really cost to mine? Are they low cost to mine? Are they higher cost to mine? What is their kind of break-even point? All those things. I agree there. David says, miners will eventually go out of business when most of the Bitcoin is mined. Not necessarily. Yes, Bitcoin is going to get harder and harder to mine. Next halving cycle, we're going to go from 3.125 to, 1 point something, 1.6 something at that point. I think, whatever it's going to be. So that is going to be definitely the case. The only thing that's going to save the miners is Bitcoin price going up higher. So, I mean, Bitcoin on its way to $1 million per Bitcoin, I think so. That's going to help out there. And then eventually, as we get more adoption, we should start seeing at least more on the transaction fees as well. So, right, with Bitcoin price going up higher, you're going to need that percentage of transaction fees to be lower per transaction for them to still make a nice profit on it at that point. So that should help out. And if Bitcoin can go to like in the next 20 years or something like that to like $5 million per coin or something like that, yeah, that still should help them out there. Gary says, I'm against Mara's Q1 all-in cost per coin of 166 per coin. They lost 170 million in mining operations in Q1. Yeah, I would have to run the numbers on it. I'm not 100% sure. I take your word for it, but I don't know. And that is including FSB loss, yeah. Okay, so that makes sense. With the FSB loss, yeah. Or excluding it, okay. That still seems pretty high to me. Question from David here. Why aren't the miners front-running Bitcoin? It seems like they are lagging behind Bitcoin. They are a little bit, if we look at, where was it at? Last week, if we look at it from the weekly, miners are at least a little bit, I mean, you can see it here from last week. We had a little bit better idea of it from, let me see, let me pull this up. So BitTier obviously had a great week last week, right? Bitcoin was only up 6%. We have some miners that are slightly outperforming it, and some that are kind of tracking close with it as well. Things definitely look a little bit different in the 4 weeks, right? You can see that some of these miners are outperforming here, just depending on the time frame when you look at it and where they are. The miners, like I said, have been beaten down in the last 4 to 5 months here, 4 months I would say, and they're starting to kind of catch back up here a little bit. We've seen days where Bitcoin's up, 2-3%, and the miners are up 9-10%. But then they also have days where Bitcoin's kind of flat and the miners go down 3-5%. So we just need a more consistent run on Bitcoin, I think, in order for the miners to do a much better multiple on Bitcoin here. All right, going back here, we're catching up to all your guys' questions here. Okay, Peter. Hey, Seb. Price expectation for MicroStrategy and BitTier, are they fairly valued now for future? Well, I think BitTier might actually be... Let me take a look at BitTier here really quick. MicroStrategy, I think MicroStrategy, obviously, as they're buying more, Bitcoin price going up, they're going to be valued more, so they can definitely run much higher. Where's BitTier here on my chart? Here it is. Okay, let me pull this up. So here's BitTier, based on the numbers that we have here for them right now, right? This does not include any future potential with HPCI or anything like that. I think they're kind of fairly valued right now, on the lower end maybe. I have them between... future revenue of 1232 to 1848. Obviously, as they grow their hash rate, that's going to improve and increase. But based on where they are right now, I think they're kind of fairly valued at 1412 as of Friday. And then looking at the last 3 quarters in the current quarter that we're in, based on those numbers, they're on the higher end of being fairly valued right now. And you can see that also in, let me see if I can pull up the, where's the enterprise metrics? Here it is. Enterprise metrics. I mean, you can see BitTier. BitTier is being valued right now for future hash rate growth of $200 million per exahash. Whereas some of the other miners that actually have more hash rate right now are being valued lower. The Cleanspark is being valued at 36, IREN at 30 million, right? So you can see where they're kind of getting a little bit overvalued there on that. But with them growing to 40 exahash later on this year, that's going to be a good thing. And then if they get an HPCI deal also, well, that's going to bump them up here. But right now, based on what I'm just seeing here, they're overvalued based on my core thinking and my thoughts on it. Seeing this, seeing where I'm pricing them in, where, I mean, analysts, let's take a look at analysts here really quick. Where do analysts have them? BitTier, there it is. BitTier analysts have them between 26 and 12, right, as of the last report. Not too far away from where I'm at, right? They might have it a little bit higher on the PE, probably at 20 or something like that. Yeah, that I guess is a little bit closer to the analysts on the high end and the low end, more or less. I'm at 15, so being a little bit more conservative there. But that's kind of just where I see them right now. So I think they're kind of fairly valued. Now, MicroStrategy is a different boat. MicroStrategy, if we go over here and take a look at them, where are they at? MicroStrategy here, right? They got up to all the way $543 a couple months back, and they came all the way down. They had a nice correction. At times, they do way outrun Bitcoin, front run it, whatever you want to call it, get a little overexcited, and then they need to pull back. And we've seen that many, many times before as well. So we saw that correction here, which was almost, I think, 50%. It went from 543 down to 287, so it was almost a 50% correction on that one. And then it actually went down even further, where we did have like a 50% plus correction on it at that point, right? Bitcoin only corrected 30%, but we saw MicroStrategy get way ahead of itself. And the MNAV multiple at that point was getting a little too crazy as well. Usually we want to see that between, I would say, like 1.5 to 2 max. This thing was at that point like 3.5 MNAV on it. It got a little way overheated. And I was saying at that point, this thing is getting a little crazy. It's going to pull back down, and sure enough, within like a week or something like that, it started to pull back down. So keep that in mind on that one. Can it run much higher? Yes, they have much more Bitcoin as they did last time. So it can continue to run up here. I think, I mean, with Bitcoin getting to 200,000, we could see this thing getting close to like $750 maybe per share, somewhere around there. I would say somewhere between, yeah, I would say somewhere between 500 and 750, somewhere around there is kind of where I would think it possibly would run. So that would be almost a 2x on it potentially. It could overshoot that as well. We've seen that here as well. Because if you look at that and we compare Bitcoin to it, let's do that. Let's add Bitcoin to it. BTC. Let's do Coinbase here on that one. And you can see here, right, this was 543% here, and Bitcoin was only like whatever it was over here, 70% or something like that from where we started out at. So yeah, it definitely got a little overheated. Okay, let's go back here. All right, talked about that one. God's will here in respect to Pi USD. Why one asked you for a quick check on it and where it's headed. Next is because I can't read charts and candlesticks perfectly, so I just wanted you to help me look it up. Okay, yeah, I would. Let me look into Pi, see what the heck is going on with that one, what that one is, and maybe if anything, I'll cover it maybe in tomorrow's Q&A as well, right? So we'll come back tomorrow. Let me pull this up here. PI altcoin. Let me take a look at it and then see what that whole thing is about it, what's going on with it, what's the project about, and we'll go there. All right, any take on Soluna? Will it recover? Oh gosh, Soluna, I know it's one of the smaller ones there. Their business model has been getting better. I know they have a new CEO in the last year and a half or so, 2 years. They switched kind of their, I wouldn't say operation, I would say their focus, which has gotten better. And let me see if I got Soluna in here. I don't, but let's take a look at it here. SLNH. And I'm not sure what's really going on there. I don't really cover them, Soluna Holdings. Let me pull this up here on the chart really quick, though, so you guys can see it. All right, there's that. Let's go to Soluna down here. I mean, it bottomed out, what, at 37 cents? I mean, if anybody got in at that point, you're up already almost 2x on it. But yeah, it was way up higher here. Do we have any reverse splits happening here? No, we didn't. But this was back in June of 2024. I think that was the HPCI Hopium there, Hype, right? They're talking about getting some customers there as well. What do we have here for earnings here? Standardized, do they now report? Prior period? Not sure. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there internally. I know that they have, like I said, changed focus on their business. They are partnering with others to help out with the build-outs there. So I'm not sure how that's affecting revenue there. And they're focusing more on hosting and going into HPCI as well for smaller sites and things like that. Can it recover back to 880? That might be a tough ask. That would be basically a 10x from where it's at right now. But you just never know, right? If they get a deal for something good, maybe. But I'm saying just right based on what I'm seeing here right now, I don't know. I really don't know. Let's see if we can take a look at some numbers here on financials as well. I mean, let's see. Free float is only 9 million shares. Market cap, 12 million. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a hard time. They got 48 employees. John's there. Let's take a look at some computing here. Let's go to the website. Renewable energies are pretty, but not the obvious one. Let's take a look at some of the recent news stories. What I like to look at. News here, what do they have? So now it says monthly business update here. This was on May 5th. To expand renewable powered AI and Bitcoin computing with new 100 megawatt sites. I mean, they are doing some things here and growing. Soluna strengthens Texas presence with new 120 megawatt wind powered data center project. Soluna signs land agreement for 166 megawatt project. But is that full potential, or is that, is that automatic there? I mean, just based on this, if they had this, you're talking about like 300 some odd megawatts. The stock should be pumping it based on that. There might be something else to it. So Soluna powers up Project Dorothy 2 to increase Bitcoin hosting capacity. Yeah, see hosting. They're getting more into like that kind of hosting stuff and partnering with companies. Texas presence. This was from April 8th, so that's not too far away. What does it say here? located with a 200 megawatt wind farm in Texas. The wind farm is owned and by a partner. Yeah, see, power partner, a multinational conglomerate that focuses on developing and managing sustainable infrastructure solutions. Again, the tough part is with these wind farms is, yeah, you're getting power when the wind is blowing, but when it's not blowing, you're not getting power. So you need to have interconnects with somebody else to power your sites up at that point. Sites 25 megawatts. BTC hosting, yeah, see hosting. 2 megawatts only here for AI hosting cloud. That's in development. 166. So these are definitely bigger sites here. Shovel ready, development, right? So they're working on some stuff here. So maybe they can announce some good things here. But again, it's for BTC hosting. So your revenues are going to be, unless you're doing like shared revenues or something like that, maybe that could help them out. But BTC hosting historically has not been a good business model. Yeah, you can make some money off of it, but doesn't generate as much revenue as you would like self-mining. But it's also much more cost, capex, expensive. And that's probably why they've changed that, because they have a much harder time getting like an ATM or anything like that where they can fund their growth that way. Whereas others could do it, pull on the ATM and build out like crazy at that point. So I don't know. This one's going to be an interesting one to watch, to see if they can turn things around and get a much better market cap than 12.1 million. I mean, they probably have more assets than they do with their market cap right now, I would imagine. Does it say what their assets are at right now? Financial health, let's see, annual quarterly financial results. I want to see debt, free cash flow, cash equivalent. I mean, okay, so cash, yeah, I mean, that's 8.9 million here as of Q4 of last year. So they had $21 million in debt. So balance sheet's not that great. And maybe that's why the stock is not doing that great. Let's see, statements, dividends, revenue, new energy. I mean, revenue has been increasing at least, 2024. I don't know. I'll leave it at that. We'll see how they do. Okay. Do you think Wolf is a takeover target? I don't know. It's a little concerning for me, at least with the electricity that they have at that site there right now. I mean, they're paying quite a boatload for it with a break-even of 66,000. Well, not really break-even, but cost to mine a Bitcoin is like 60-some thousand. That's pretty high. I don't know what their cost is. It's got to be around probably over 5 cents, like maybe even 6 cents. They had a really good cost when they still had the other site. But man, when they sold that site off, their costs have gone way up here. So, not sure. Not liking that. I don't know if anybody would want to take that over. Let's see. Gary has a question here. Why do you think every miner except one plans to move to HPC AI? You would think they would be in best position to judge which areas has more potential, but market doesn't agree with them. Let me reread that again. So you would think they would be in best position to judge which area has more potential, but market doesn't agree with them. Well, the one that's not really going into it is Cleanspark, right? But the market hasn't dumped on them so hard this year as it did on some of the iron miners. So maybe, I don't think that's the main reason. I think they just want to be the pure play Bitcoin miner and the best one at that. But yeah, the other ones, I mean, the funny thing is that also Cleanspark has sites all over the place, right? They got, what do they say now, like 30 different sites or something like that all over the country. You would think that maybe some of those sites would be even more preferable to like HPCI, because you're going to be having smaller sites in multiple areas, multiple geographies, instead of having one huge data center site in one area when your customers are in, New York, Illinois, California, or something like that, and your site is in Texas. I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know if that's the best way. So I would think like having smaller sites all over the place where your customers are at would be more beneficial because of latency and all that stuff. But what do I know, right? So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Do those miners that are into HPCI get any good deals? Time will tell. Like I said, I'm hesitant. I'm on the fence on that right now until I'm proven wrong. So we'll see. All right. Let's see. Momo says, to Gary, not true. It doesn't cost more 166 per coin. I know it's going to be up there. I don't know if it's going to be 166 per coin, but if you include like depreciation and stock-based compensation, all the other stuff, I know it's going to be getting up there, but I don't think it's going to be that high. Let's see. All right. any update about Hive possibly selling their entire Bitcoin stack? No update, right? I asked them on Friday. I think I reached out to them on X, directly to Hive there and to Frank as well, to see if they could put out any kind of numbers for it. Because historically they have put those out every month. And yeah, I don't know if they sold the whole thing, but them not reporting it kind of makes me think that they did sell out all of it or a large portion of it. So it'd be nice if they would just say, no, we still have this amount. But until they say that, I'm saying they sold everything. You say you have Bitfarms. Can it X? Yeah, I think it's looking X, but they got to definitely perform better than what they have here, at least than last year. The guidance was off. The guidance was missed. The guidance got delayed for their growth. I do like to pivot more to the United States, so that's a good thing. Them getting some loans with a nice backer is also a good sign, I think. That might lead to possibly some deals there. So they're doing the right things now. It's just they need to execute and go forward from there. Let's see. See if Cleanspark management released a PR about selling their jet. Do you think stock price will rocket? No, I mean, based on Gary V and his comments, right? He was the one that actually proposed that to them, that they could actually save money on it that way, right? You can write it off. You can also rent it out, lease it out, whatever they're doing there as well. So it seems like it's a net positive for them. Plus the savings in time, everything else. You got multiple sites, and then you're looking for other sites. I see that. I think it's a net positive overall. Sorry, I mean 4x. Can Bitfarms 4x? I mean, that'd be like $4 or something right now for it. Bitcoin gets to like 200 some thousand. I think it might be possible. All right. Goswell says, no problem, Seb. I will patiently wait while you do your research and check on it. Meantime, you're so soft-spoken and kind. Seb, you're the best. Thanks. I appreciate that. Thank you. I try to treat everybody as a friend. Even if you disagree with me, I try to treat everybody nicely. There's too much hate in the world as it is already. All right, LB, it's so funny that no one really talks about BitDeer, but I still think they are going to be the winner this year. They make their own machines. Yep, they're growing, possibly AI deal, and very few shares outstanding. Yeah, talked about all those things, right? AI deal possibility there. They do make their own machines, which is fantastic, low cost to mine, but it seems like they're still being impacted by the tariffs there. They've mentioned that in their last operational update that they're moving the sites to Bhutan and what was the other one? I can't remember the other one now. But they're all overseas, not in the United States, right? So they're getting the 40 exahash, which is great. They are making their own machines. They have a lot of potential there. And maybe that's why the stock is being valued the way it is. Based on current numbers and things like that, I think they're kind of fairly valued as it is right now. And they do seem to be getting a much better premium than some of the other miners are right now that actually have much higher hash rate as it is. Let's see, have you heard about Europe legislation banning Bitcoin? I have not. I've not heard that. I'll take a look into it. Okay. Sorry, I wasn't clear. Why do you think all of the miners plan to move to HPCI when market thinks it's a negative? Well, I don't think the market thinks it's a negative. I mean, at a certain point last year, the market was all over it, right? The thing that kind of spooked the market was the, yeah, you know what I mean, the Chinese, what the heck was that called? I just mentioned it earlier on. My mind just went blank on it. DeepSeek. There we go. DeepSeek. I think that kind of freaked people out, and that's a result of why we've seen the miners to get hit. There's still a lot of demand for HPCI. We've heard stories of that there is a glut, or there's more demand for the graphic processing units, GPUs, that are used for HPCI than there are available right now. There's just such a demand for it. And then, I mean, we're still seeing Microsoft investing heavily. We're still seeing Google, Amazon, all those guys investing tens of billions of dollars a piece into the space. But it's just, can the miners actually get any portion of that? That's the big question there, right? Do the big guys want a huge single site with 2 gigawatts of power, or do they want 10, 200 gigawatt sites, right? That's the question there. At least I think that's the question that they're probably asking themselves. Do they want to be centralized in one location where you have problems? If you get tornado, God forbid, right? Any kind of storms or anything like that that knocks out power to that, I mean, you're concentrated in that one area. That's going to take you out all over the place. Whereas if you have, 2100 megawatt sites all over the place, you're isolated from that happening, and then you're also closer to your customers' regions as well. So that's kind of my thinking on it. That's why I'm kind of hesitant and a little reluctant to think that they're going to be any major deals. But I could be wrong on that. Then we'll have to wait and see. Okay. Talk about that. Okay. SH here. Kathy Wood noted that ARK has a 2030 bull prediction price target for Bitcoin at 1.5 million. I think that might be doable. I mean, if we get to 200,000 sometime later on this year, next year, I think it's doable. 2030 would only be 4 years away. And if we have a continued extended cycle, might be close. I would say a million. I would say by 2030, I would say a million. 1.5 is definitely going to be pushing it. All right. Gary says, BitDeer has lots of potential. If they weren't from Singapore, would be much higher. I probably agree with you there on that one. And then, yeah, DeepSeek was the one I was thinking of. So, yeah. All right. Well, we've cut up to all you guys' questions here. Like I said, later on this week, we do have some miners that are going to be reporting. Bitfarms, IREN on the 14th, BitDeer on the 15th. We're still, I think there's going to be a couple left that I have to report on that. And then we should be all done with the quarterly results. Still waiting on the Core and Hut 8 to report their monthly production updates. Hopefully those come out later on this week. And then we'll be done with those guys, and we can get into some of the metrics. And I still got to go through some AI plays as well. I've been slacking on it, so I got to get cut up a little bit here. Just been busy. Everything else is going on, so I'll make my best effort that I can for later on this week for me talk about an AI play. All right, but that's it. I wish you guys all a great week. Hopefully Bitcoin does much better than what it's been doing. Well, it's been doing actually pretty good here, but much better what it is right now at least. I want it to do, another 6-7% next week. That would be fantastic. And then, repeat that again for a couple of weeks, and then I think we'll be in good shape. So have a wonderful week. Thank you all for coming in as always. Love you all. I will see you guys tomorrow.